Simon, if you will direct if everyone will direct their attention to the picture-in-picture that I have there of the Unity face. I've asked Simon to give a little overview of the Unity box.
Excellent. Thank you, Blaise. Yeah, I mean, the Unity, as you guys are some of you guys are aware, is a pretty interesting product that RatPac has developed to solve a few issues of different pieces of equipment communicating with each other and unify them into one product so that it makes all of our lives a little more simple. So the overview of the front face of the Unity, I break down into like 5 parts. And what you have in that top left corner, there's 8 ports of Ethernet or RJ45 connectors that are comprise the network switch portion. And there's actually a 9th port just up to the right of the 8 ports there. Yeah, exactly where Blaise is pointing. And those 9 ports allow you for distribution of either ArtNet or SACN distribution signals. And that network switch that's built in there is an unmanaged switch, just for those who asked that question. And then flowing over to the middle of the box, there on the upper side next to the singular RJ45 is the DMX in and output. If you're simply feeding the dimmer portion of the pack with a pass-through DMX, that's what the in and out are there for. And below that is the node, we refer to as a node, or gateway in some terminology. There is 8 ports there of DMX output, and those are programmable so that you can use any one of the universes that's on the input of your networking through the ArtNet or SACN to be able to program those 8 ports output. One of the things to note on that node is if you're using ArtNet, you can program those nodes differently. If you're using SACN multicast, you have to limit the box to 7 unique universes of product at the moment. So up to the right of that in and output DMX, you'll see the wireless controls. What you don't see necessarily there, but on the top of this, there's 2 wireless antennas, and there's 2 wireless DMX networks capable there, either receive or transmit, or however you like to configure them. And again, you can pick and choose which of the universes are distributed to or received from those 2 wireless networks. Further over to the right-hand side, there is the programmable screen. The 2 buttons below it and the default switch below that is the ability to program the configuration of the Unity box on screen by turning that knob that's just below the screen and push buttoning the center of it to select things, and turn the knob to change settings, push the button to select them, and then the little button to the left of that is the back button that allows you to go backwards in menus. One of the neat things on the latest firmware update, the back button, is it takes the screen back to a screen that shows you what items are on each universe and each setting. So that's kind of a handy screen to go back to. And below that is the large switch. That's the default switch that shows you or allows you to choose the default setting of the dimmer output, either it be incandescent loads, LED loads, switchable, what some people call a non-dim, or hot power. So those are the default settings. And at the bottom of the dimmer, you'll see in this case the 8 Edison outputs, or the 12 Edison outputs for the dimmer output. And above each one of those Edison outputs is a corresponding bump button like we're used to seeing on dimmers, so you can bump and test. But you get 1 output per channel, 12 channels. And the unique factor of the Unity now is that these are configurable to be either 6 by 2.4 or 12 by 1.2. So you can use, you'll see that the breakers to the right of the Edison outlets show 6 breakers of 20 amps per, and they have a number system to show you which 2 outputs are on each breaker. So for instance, dimmers 1 and 2 are on a 20 amp breaker. So if you're using 2Ks and you need the ability to use 2Ks, you can use either channel 1 or 2 at 2K, but you cannot put more than 2K on those 2 channels. So you can use it and configure it, say 1 through 6 at 2K and nothing on 7 through 12, or you could use it 1 through 12 at 1.2K and be able to use smaller loads over more channels. So that's a configuration ability. Excuse me. You can, of course, go in and turn that large dial we talked about and set the default type of dimming you're doing. But you can also go into the screen at the top right corner there and configure the Unity for each type of dimmer output per channel, which is a great function you can do to be able to take channel 1 to be able to dim incandescent, channel 2 to do LED, or however you want to configure it is totally configurable. Another important factor that I'm sure you're going to hear about here, that I'll just touch upon in the overview, is that you can attach a laptop to that Ethernet port and have remotely a laptop that can pull up a GUI interface, a graphical user interface, based on that IP address that's set in the box. And then you can remotely access all the adjustments and changes on your laptop. So it comes up with a graphic screen that allows you to do everything you can do on the screen, plus a couple more functions on the graphical user interface, like save and load a configuration is on the graphical user interface. And you can do things like identify the box. That's the basic overview of all the functions on the front of it. I mean, there are a few buttons there below the wireless, the panic, and there's a battery system, so you can configure this by battery, but that's the basic functionality of it. Back to
Simon,
you,
thank you very much. That's fantastic. That's a good wrap up. The reason it's called Unity is it does replace pretty much all of our lunch boxes, dimmers, as well as any of the PDBs, if you're familiar with those. But at this point, I think I would love to just turn things over to Bobby. I did want to point out, in just a moment, but I did want to point out that I've got one of the other viewers that you have here. If you look for that, is the LCD screen in a close-up, so you can see details there that Simon was referring to. And Bobby the cellist is going to take questions and answers. If he has any, I did ask if he could give any thoughts on the actual application of the Unity, because he has been using it on set. And a lot of the questions that we get are, well, what's the real application? How would I use this on set? So Bobby, if you have any thoughts to just open that with, and then we'll open to the question and answer. You're muted.
There we go. How's that?
Perfect.
All right. So just a little backstory too. So right now working on obviously a very high-tech show, but the show I did before this was a period piece. And actually also we used the crud out of the Unity. Because but it's using entirely different applications for these shows. So on the last show, which was a period piece, the gaffer loved to light with tungsten and LED, and getting their set dragouts wound up being Unities, because that was the only way to get them a dimmer channel and data in one point. And before we were dragging out essentially either a PDB and a 6x2.4 or some other dimmer alongside of it. It just became really messy. So the Unity allowed us to sort of condense that. And whereas on this show, our first unit doesn't ever drag anything out, but we're able to rig these all over the place. So what's nice is that no matter where they are, first unit has their data and dimmer points that are sort of all over the set. There's no, back in the day, I said we used to do a Socko drop, and that would cover first unit. You had a distro box, you had a Socko drop, but that was all they needed. And now the needs have become so broad between tungsten lighting, which is still very, very popular, I can assure you, with a lot of people, and all this LED lighting. And so this sort of bridges that gap now, where it's sort of it is our Unity. It's our all-in-one access point. It's it's a lot of things, but it's all the things that that first unit needs, and they may not always need them, but they'll always have the ability to power and give data to what they need, and that's why it's just a real time saver for us. Is what we've been using it as.
Excellent, Bobby. Thank you so much. So we're going to open the floor to questions, and we would love to hear your questions. And Bobby's going to help us along. Make sure you unmute if you're talking.
Hey, Bobby, it's Jim here. We've often found north of the border that we don't do a lot of drag outs. Certainly not what I've heard you guys commonly do south of the border. You know, so the way I'm using the Unity box right now is on our swing sets. You know, we stick it on the wall, the set, and, you know, it gives us, you know, all the things we need to power and data that set with all the LED elements. Is sort of what we were doing with it right now.
Yeah, no, I mean that's yeah, it's great. And then I don't know if you've seen the new clamps now, because it's a little heavy to hang on set walls. But I don't know if Blaze has showed you the new clamps, so you can hang them on pipe if you want to.
No, but that's a great
I
idea.
have it.
Yeah.
Clamps.
Yeah, they screw right into the top. So I know, because it's a little heavy, because we were doing that too. And those 1x3s start to strain a little bit.
I have a lamp op who loves to do carpentry work and build shelves everywhere.
Oh, nice.
And so I would
I-
just, sorry,
Go ahead.
Craig, I would ask Bobby quickly. Hi, Bobby. Really great to see you. Thank you so much for your help.
Yeah.
What part of the Unity do you, if there is a part, do you think you use the most? Do you use it mostly as a sort of for the data, or as dimming? So is there a part of it that maybe gets more use in your maybe on Mandalorian than other parts of it got used on the period piece? Is there anything like that you could comment on?
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely say the dimming on the period piece was we used a lot of that. Whereas on this show, we use tungsten, but very sparingly. And it's a whole complicated process, and why we can't use more tungsten. but yeah, so no, definitely the data side gets used a lot more on Mandalorian. And, you know, because we have lights that take Ethernet direct, we have lights that take DMX direct. And I think our first unit alone, not including, I think just our first unit is 7 universes of floor lights. They carry with them, and then that doesn't include our second unit and whatever rigging lights we have and fixtures. So we mostly use the data side on this.
Huh. All right. That's I mean, that's what I figured would sort of would, for a show like that, would probably be the go-to, would be sort of that data, the data side of the Unity box. But you would still use the dimming aspect of it as well, though, kind of on the Mandalorian show as well. And did you use much data on the period piece? Like, I guess it really depends on the show, and on the tools that you're using will denote how much of that, or what particular part would get used more on the Unity.
Exactly. On the period show, we used the node essentially as just an optic splitter, because first unit was pretty limited to like one universe. And so we essentially used it that way, but they did a lot more tungsten dimming. And basically it's sort of an inversion of each other. On this show, we have very minimal dimming and mostly data. And so it's sort of like, they're sort of used oppositely. We also have a very, I don't know if we're allowed to say, I don't know if they announced the new DP or DP that we have, but he's been around for a long time, very old school, and he loves his tungsten. So he likes to get his tungsten light in here and there wherever he can. So it's nice to always have that in the back pocket, to know that whenever he wants it, we're ready for it.
Hey, Bobby, did you ever use the ghost load on your Unity?
You know what? We don't do LED tubes on this, so that's something I have not really used on this show.
Okay.
But yeah, we aren't a fan of them, because they usually they're so unresponsive of the ones that the ghost load works for. So maybe
Yeah.
now that we have Unity, we'll revisit them.
Yeah, just curious.
And
Yeah.
Bobby, how about the GUI? Do you mostly do your configurations through the GUI?
I actually love the front face. I love that screen. I think that's the nicest screen of any light. The GUI's great. We do it sometimes, but honest with you, it's just between getting out the computer and logging in. It's more of a prep thing for me. It's something I would do when I first get something, but we're so dynamic on our show because of all the set changes. It's web GUI. It's the same reason I don't print fancy light labels on our show. We just do tape because everything changes by the minute. You know, it's not worth the effort.
And sorry, Bobby, do you find most of these units are accessible on the ground, on back of set walls, or do you have them up in the grids, or in the perms, as you guys call them down there? Like, or are they just kind of all over the place?
Sort of all over the place. I don't really keep any up in the perms. They're usually all accessible by first unit. You know, it's allocation of resources because it is pricier than a lunchbox, obviously. So, when I'm using it, I try to make it accessible to first unit to utilize it, get the most out of it. We typically have 1 or 2 drag outs on a stage with it. The majority, we still use PDBs for the majority of lights. But yeah, so I say a mixture of the grid. We had some green beds. We actually had green beds. So we had one up there. But yeah, it just sort of fills in where it needs to be. To me, it's like the new distro box. Because we're either rigging 18K, you're either rigging 18,000 watt lights, or I'm rigging 3 watt LEDs, and so it's sort of like this micro distro box is really kind of what it is to me.
And thank you. Simon is holding up the picture of the other configuration of the Unity, which is a dual SOCO. So that is also available. Thanks, Simon.
I'll say a few words so I go full screen for those who are in that mode. But yeah, there's the SOCO or SOCA, as it's spelled. We call it in Canada. SOCA. I don't know. Anyway, here we are. That's the other version of it.
Well, and this,
but yeah, that's handy for those that need that.
Well, and just noting that the SOCA as well as the Edison version are both 2.4, 1.2, both on the same unit. You don't need 2 separate units. So
Very
yeah,
good
there
point.
you go. Yeah, there you go.
Bobby, if you could speak a little bit also to the new data sphere. I don't have that pictured here, but the new data sphere, to like Eddie's question, where you're on the set of The Mandalorian and you don't totally need the Unity, or you've got enough Unity, but you still need more data. Just for those of you who aren't familiar, our new data sphere is basically the top half of the Unity box without the power outputs.
So yeah, I use a ton of data spheres. I'm probably 4 or 5 to 1 with data spheres versus Unities, because that's my main jam is distributing data evenly and everywhere. Because it always comes up, whether it's every piece of set dressing is a universe of lights. Everything. Those single color LEDs are a lot of fun. And then we've also introduced a lot of pixel this season. So yeah, I've got data spheres everywhere essentially, because got to have that tap into that strain. Yeah,
And we'll show the data sphere in an upcoming meeting as well. We just want to focus on one product at a time, but wanted to bring that up.
Hey, Bobby, what sort of universe counts are you getting into on your sets?
Ooh, well, if it's not, we won't talk about the media server stuff, but the media server,
No, right.
Yeah, I mean those shit without media servers. I mean, we probably have, and we changed the active amount of universes. We turn universes on and off because of yeah. Oh, there's my Tom. My programmer's behind me said, so we're about 70 universes right now, and then if you include the pixel mapping and the media servers, I think we're well into the hundreds there. Probably knocking on the door at 200.
That's pretty impressive.
A lot of data. But yeah, that's to me that's the new rig. The new rigging is the data. That's the part that's so troublesome. I don't see a world where we're rigging 10,000 pieces of 4-aught for 1,000 6K space lights anymore. You know, instead I've got 1,000 LEDs, and it's a lot less power cable, but the challenge is managing the data. And so, question, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, what's your preference for Ethernet protocols? Are you guys using more ArtNet or SACN or multicast, unicast?
We're SACN family. We like SACN. So multicast SACN, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like most of the larger shows are doing that around everywhere. So
it seems to play well with with everybody else. And oftentimes we have to go through an infrastructure of a company, so go through stages and their own stuff. And it just seems to work well through all that stuff. And ArtNet, we don't use it as much. I've just heard a lot more horror stories about it. I'm not knocking ArtNet, pro ArtNet here, but yeah, we like SACN.
Okay. Have you found any compatibility issues with equipment or gear and the Unity? Or is it all playing nicely?
What's funny is that, I mean, granted, we're in the unmanaged world, but we've been kind of playing around this season, because we started off with semi-managed, and we've been adding different companies managed stuff here and there, and it's all, knock on wood, played super well together. And that was a surprising fact, because I assumed it would not. And yeah, so we're just kind of slowly turning that dial up every week, trying a little more. But yeah,
I'd like to open up for a minute just to see if any of our guests again have any questions.
I've got a question back to the dual SOCA or SOCA. When we go into the 2.4 mode, are we 3 circuits per SOCA, or are we loaded up all 6 off one circuit on one connector?
They're all available, so we still have all 12 channels available. But if you tap out the amperage on one, then then you're not going to want to load more on 7. Again, the same way that it's configured on the Edisons. If they're linked by 1 and 7, 2 and 8, 3 and 9. So if you put a 2K in one, you don't want to load anything on channel 7, or you'll trip the breaker and have to reset it.
So the 6 loads would be split over both connectors, right? 3 on each.
Oh, well, again, if you're doing 2.4, they would all be on one, because it would be channels 1 through 6, and you would just not want to use 7 through 12 at all.
And you've got no trouble with derating the SOCA running 6 loads, 12 non-current carrying conductors on the one piece of SOCA? Derating factors?
Well, Bobby, can you speak to that, please?
I mean, that's that's on the rigging crew and how far your run is and all that other stuff. We do it all the time. And typically, if you're running the 2Ks, at least when we do it, it's probably a 2K for now, if that's what you're pulling on a SOCO. And if you're dimming it, then it's less. But yeah, I mean, that's that's between you and your God, as they say. If you want to push it, or you can. But and also, being that it's not in the dimmer room, chances are your run's much shorter. So you probably don't have 300 feet of SOCO to your light from the Unity.
Yeah, and are you actually? You might have 2Ks on, but are you actually pulling 2,000 watts on each of those lines? Like Bobby said, that's really for the crew to determine. But as far as our configuration, it's definitely all of the 2K availability is on the first 6 channels. It's just the way the box is made. Good point, though. People want to be aware of it.
And the electrical inspectors as well.
Yeah, if I can point out to that, of course, for our American friends in Canada here, we get more inspections, and we've had more electrical discussions about loading SOCA with 6 2Ks, and that's why Mike brings that up. We've been through that before, and things like 12 gauge SOCA is only allowed here and stuff like that. So because of the circuits loading, so that's something that like Bobby says, your rigging crew has to be aware of and has to make sure that it's all done right.
Yeah, obviously for that purpose, we could have distributed it differently channel wise, but much harder for people to follow and track with. So in some ways, practicality versus the implications of people being able to follow on set what's actually happening is with the box is is got to win out. So that's definitely where it's at. Again, all the 2K is available in channels 1 through 6.
No, as Bobby mentioned, the days of running it back to 96 channel dimmer racks in a room are long gone, and so the runs aren't as long, but still, it's something that the rigging crews and the rental houses have to keep in mind.
Very good point, Mike. Thank you. Any other questions?
Hey, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Hey, Guy.
Hi, I'm Jason. Wireless. I'm wondering, hey, Simon, hi, Jim. I assume you can configure the wireless to be a transmit or receive. Can you take SACN in and then decide which universe is actually being sent? And my next question is, I know everyone loves wireless and I love it too, but I tend to avoid it like the plague, because what usually happens is no matter what brand or anything, it's phenomenal until main unit turn up. And I have had I've been on a tour that I got the audio guy to come down to a set with his spectrum analyzer like we do in any arena and do a lap of set, and it turns out it's the Libra head transmitter that some guys got that is so illegal and stomping on everything. I'm just wondering if anyone has any comments or fixes, or because it's always great until we start blocking, and then it's always because someone has a piece of gear that they just shouldn't have. But I don't know if anyone has used all this wireless and how robust it is.
It's just as robust as any of the other CMRX systems. But I know exactly what you mean. Where there's a big talk. I don't know if you're north of the border or south of the border, Guy.
I'm north, but I do a lot of work in the States, but I'm in Vancouver.
So our big talk is about having essentially a wireless coordinator on set, and who that is, because I run into the same thing all the time. I can't tell you how many times that we rig a set with wireless, everything works perfect, and it's always usually camera, usually a Teradek or a wireless head that just stomps on it all, because they just open up their bandwidth and they just shoot it out. So we tend to not use wire. We tend to use wireless as a last resort on stage, But the cool feature about the Unity, which they just added, is that you can use it as a wireless repeater, because it's 2 transceivers, so you can receive a universe and then transmit that same universe. So if you were doing like a location rig, like rooftops and stuff, you could jump rooftops with the wireless, and then you could pick up all your dimmer circuits like that without having to run data.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, as far as dealing with other people's junk, that's case by case basis, at least for us, unfortunately.
Okay, it's good to know you have the same problem, because like in live entertainment, we have a guy who that's his full-time job is spectrum analyzing the building and managing frequencies, but it doesn't seem to be a thing yet in film.
Yeah, and there's big talk of that about sets. Your device has to be editable to bring it to set. You have to be able to configure it in some way, because you can't just bring this device and expect everyone to work around you.
Yeah, cool.
I see that coming too, Bobby, for sure.
Yeah.
Bobby, we get a lot of questions, as you know, about the multicast. Would you explain, you did a great overview for me and Nick about the multicast, the limitations, and how many universes we're actually able to push through the box that way.
Yeah, so the box, there's a couple things about multicast, and I don't know if we want to get full nerd and how it works with subscribing it in a fully managed network. I don't know if we want to talk about that. Is that a yes?
Sure.
Well, the problem, so when you run normal multicast, if you run multicast unmanaged network, it just broadcasts it to everything. Everything hears everything. It's all fine. Everybody hears it all. So when you start to go managed, which I know a lot of people want to do, you're going to find that a lot of your gear doesn't work the way it's supposed to, because it doesn't subscribe. Essentially, for a true managed network, each time a box, say, wants a universe, it's supposed to send out this request of an IP address and says, hey, I want this. But what you'll find is a lot of manufacturers did not implement their multicast properly. And so a lot of times people will say, hey, this isn't working, or that's not working. And it's because you're probably using some piece of gear that wasn't coded for multicast properly, which is streaming ACN's default de facto way of communicating. And that's only when you make a jump to the managed network. Unmanaged network, you'll never have that problem. But as far as the box itself, Bobby Linus, I know, is working feverishly to rectify this. But essentially, you can only have 7 unique universes outputting at one time. So that includes the wireless. If you're outputting on wireless, that each one of those is a wireless node essentially, so that counts. And so you can only put out 7 different universes. And so I know the box is essentially capable of technically 11. So it's something to keep in mind, because that's the number one problem I see is everybody sets every port to a different universe and they're like, hey, this isn't working or that's not working. And that's why there's a little lovely sticker there on the front right now. Hopefully we can pull that off one day, where it says it's only capable of 7 unique universes at a time. Per box.
Thank you,
Per box.
Bobby. Does anybody have questions specifically in that regard in our last 5 minutes here?
I have a question about that. Because you can't go past 7 universes, are you more likely to grab another Unity or another Switch, or would you start messing with Unicast at that point?
I don't like to play with Unicast. The only time we use Unicast is when we go to our like wireless transmitters that we might have, you know, if it's a busy network. But I don't often find, in fact, I don't think it's come up where I've needed to pull more than 7 universes out of a single box. So yeah, if I needed more, I would probably just put another one there. But honestly, I mean, first unit's using the same universes over and over again. Rigging crews using similar universe. You know, chances are, you know, especially in the Unity data, it's only got six ports in the front and 1 wireless. It's very difficult to go over essentially for us.
Great question, Lindsay.
It strikes me that that's a limitation of this, that the design has to be implemented in the rigging and design of the set, so that you know how many pieces of equipment you need in order to service what it is you're doing. So you can figure that out, and once the crews are aware of that and how to configure the box, then they can figure out how many more boxes they need to rent. So that's fine by me. You know, but you know, how to figure it out, how to do it, how to break it down would be great.
Thank you very much. Jim, you had a question?
Yeah, just we had a challenge at the beginning of our season on Zoe's playlist where we broke that 7 universe rule because we didn't fully understand it. And by the time we realized what the issue was, we were so deep down the rabbit hole that we had to go to traditional switches and breaking out into dimmer packs at that point, because we couldn't completely reconfigure the rig at that point. There just wasn't time to do that. But, you know, going forward, knowing about the 7 universe limit, you know, it's totally manageable once you know what the limitations are.
Excellent. Any other questions? All right. Well, if did anybody else have any points, or Bobby comments to make before we wrap up?
You know, and it's this thing. It's not just you know, because I love you guys. It's just the truth. You know, I've been in the business for a while. My dad was in it, and you know, I never have understood why data. I don't know if it's the same for you guys up there, but guys would always just rig the minimal amount of data. That's what everyone always tells me when they see the box. Well, I don't need all that stuff. Well, I don't need all that stuff. Well, no one says that about a 1200 amp distro. No one rigs a 1200 amp distro and goes, well, I'm only gonna put a 5K in it, because you never know what's gonna happen the next week. So that's how I feel about the Unity data. That it's the distro box of data, because it's got enough ports to do and cover what's gonna come up. And so I don't know, that's my number one thing is I always hear is that people, well, I don't need all that. Well, you don't think you need all that, but don't bottleneck yourself. And then when that drop load comes to 20 Sky panels that they decided to add last minute, you're ready for it.
I was actually talking to a fella down in Atlanta who's working on Doom Patrol, and he explained to me that he has 6 Unities all working, and even before the latest update, because we have another update coming to address some issues, he said they've been working for weeks, no issues, they're all running just fabulously. And he's running, you know, on one set, he has 16 Sky Panel 360s, along with a number, because of the nature of the show, a number of characters who are all in LED uniforms, all running through the the boxes. So he wanted to point that out, and I said, wow, so you're not anxiously waiting for the update to save your bacon. He said, no, this is all working great. We've been shooting for a couple of weeks now. So good to hear the good reports. Yeah, Simon.
I would say one of the other comments that I hear and get that's of note, and I'm sure that you guys talk about this a lot out there, is that people are concerned about having one product with so many aspects in it, and what if one part of it breaks down, and what do we do? But I sort of argue that by saying that this is the same as anything else. I mean, if you need 6 network switches on your set, you're probably going to get a spare one anyway. So in this case, you probably have some spare equipment lying around for the what if, not only for the expansion like Bobby talked about, but also for the for replacement if something goes wrong, so you have some spare parts lying around. And this is no different, I don't think, than that. So I mean, it's just a matter of wrapping your head around this piece of equipment versus what you traditionally do, and how this can help you versus how to stop your mind from expanding into it, right? So it's kind of how it goes, right?
Couldn't agree more. I know we're all kind of set in our ways, and I fear change. I always reject the new, and I have to tell myself, get out of that mindset, because this is what we need.
Well,
It
we're
changes
going
with or
forward.
without us, right?
Yep.
We're going forward. There are more products coming. We'll have more of these meetings. I want to thank you very much for participating. This has been recorded. I will make the recording available to everybody that I've distributed to. If you could pass that on, please. I'm not going to post it publicly, but we will pass it around, and you can share it with anybody you want to. That's just fine. I want to thank you all for participating. Again, we'll have more of these. As you noted, this one is Canadian specific. We'll continue to have regionally specific and product specific updates for anybody who cares to join. Thank you very much.
Just let me
Thank you very much, Bobby.
My last anecdote, because I just remember this now. I got to tell it. I'll never forget. I think it was 5 years ago. I saw the first dual PDB, and I thought, who is ever going to need 2 universes of DMX? That's crazy. And let's just leave it at that. That's
little did we know, right? Little did we know.
Wow.
Thanks. Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Stay safe, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Thank you.